So starting a studio, just for my benefit, how many people are currently students? Just show of hands. Fine. And people currently working in studios? Okay, and last but not least, people running their own studios. Okay, so we've got a mix of people, so just so I can sort of try and sort of tailor it to the audience. I should probably say to begin with, I'm not trying to be overly negative tonight, but there is a requirement to get over to you the actual fact that running your own business is not as easy as you think it might be, or as glamorous as you might think it would be. So I'm not trying to put you off running a business, far from it, and you just need to be realistic here in terms of what is involved in running your own studio, because it ain't easy, that's the bottom line. So cover some of what I would refer to as the exciting stuff before we get on to the boring stuff in terms of what you need to do in terms of the administration of running a business, things like employing people, accounting records that you need to maintain, etc., etc. But the exciting stuff is, why are you in business? What will be your business model? What's your point of differentiation, competitive advantage compared to other games developers, and funding? One of my colleagues, Alistair's going to talk about funding, and Dougie Agnew will talk about some tax aspects of running a games company. But just first, this chat will be familiar to all of you, a very short video.
I'm wondering what would be the single most valuable piece of advice you could give us to even attempt to create some of the value that you guys have done in both your very impressive companies.
People say you have to have a lot of passion for what you're doing, and it's totally true. And the reason is because it's so hard that if you don't, any rational person would give up. It's really hard, and you have to do it over a sustained period of time. So if you don't love it, if you're not having fun doing it, you don't really love it, you're going to give up. And that's what happens to most people, actually. If you really look at the ones that ended up being successful, unquote, in the eyes of society, and the ones that didn't. Oftentimes, it's the ones that are successful love what they did so they could persevere when it got really tough. And the ones that didn't love it quit because they're sane, right? Who would want to put up with this stuff if you don't love it? So it's a lot of hard work, and it's a lot of worrying constantly. And if you don't love it, you're going to fail. So you got to love it. You got to have passion.
So 2 or 3 key things there I want to pick on. First one, passion. You need the passion. Determination, persistence are absolutely critical as well. The other thing that I would add is all very well being passionate and being persistent, but you need to have a vision in terms of what is your business going to look like. Where is business going? And I tend to be a very visual person, so vision for a business, picture your business. What will it look like in 2 or 3 years' time? I would, for lots of companies, I would go 5 to 10 years out, but in the games industry, who knows what the games industry will look like in 5 or 10 years' time. One thing that's probably quite safe to say, it will be growing. Because you guys will know yourself, more and more people are playing games. Kids of the age of 2 or 3 are playing games, and you don't stop playing games when you become an adult at 25. You continue to play games. My eldest daughter and a partner, they go to a games exhibition every year, PAX. They've been to PAX East and PAX West, and they do a survey every year of the attendees at PAX. And every year, the average age of the people attending PAX is actually increasing. So it's going from 24 to 24 and a half to 25 to 25 and a half. And that's just because people don't stop playing games. So your market is growing all the time. I just pull a slide up. The emphasis on this slide is start with the why. It's a great book I would recommend by Steve Sinek. Start with the why. Why are you starting in business? You must have a good reason. You must be passionate about something. I know there's lots of games companies, particularly here in Dundee, that have spun out of the Dare to be Digital competition, and they've come together as teams, whether it be through Abertay or other universities. They've produced a game, and I know there's some here tonight. But is that a reason for actually starting a business? In some cases, yes. But because you all came together at university or for a competition, is that a good reason to go on and start a business? It comes back to what is the reason why you're starting a business? Why is critical? Again, business model canvas. There's 9 elements to this, and I'm not going to talk about all 9 tonight. Otherwise, quite literally, I would be here till like 10 o'clock tonight. I want to focus on 3 or 4 of the key elements. The one in the middle, the value proposition, I call it sustainable competitive advantage, point of differentiation, unique selling point. What is your value proposition? If you are going to start a studio, what are you going to do that's actually going to offer value to your prospective customers? But what you need to do is identify who are your customers. What will your business be doing? Because if you look at the other one, key activities, will you be developing your own IP, your own games, or will you be working for some other publisher, a subcontractor? And again, if you're going to be doing work for other people, why are they going to come to you rather than the other 40 or 50 games developers in Dundee, or the 500, 600 games developers in the UK, or the thousands of game developers across the world? Why will they come to your business? What is your competitive advantage? So you need to think about these things before you go into business. And again, depending on what your business model is going to be, if you are key activities, your key resources, I'm guessing, will be your people, because that is critical. And what I find is, for most games companies, they've got the creative talent down to a T. They've got the artists, they've got the developers, they've got the programmers, they've got that nailed, absolutely nailed. What they don't have, in my experience, is the other broader business skills, the business development, the marketing, the selling. So you've got to know where you're weak. You know where your strengths are, but identify your weaknesses. And again, you might identify if weaknesses are your business development, your marketing, etc., etc. Who are your key partners going to be? Because I know Alistair's going to talk about it when he talks about funding, but a new business, a new indie publisher, Playstark, could be a good partner for you if you're looking to get funding for games. I say key resources, it could be staff, but more and more I'm seeing games companies coming together on a collaborative basis. They come together, develop a game, just using subcontractors. We'll need an artist for 3 months, bring in the artist for 3 months, and that's it done. Far better doing that than employing an artist, because if you're employing an artist or a program developer, it doesn't matter. What is that person going to work on when that project comes to an end? And there is a tendency, once you get into work for hire, you get onto a treadmill. We've done this project, it's a 9-month project. What happens in January of next year when that project comes to an end? You can't wait until January to actually go and look for a new contract. You should be looking for September, October time, so you know you've got a flow of work for the people, otherwise they're sitting doing nothing. So again, you need to think about these sort of things. And again, I'm not even going to go there, but revenue streams in your environment. I did a talk probably 6 or 7 years ago. It was to a group of insolvency practitioners, in fact. They all had mobile phones, they all had apps, but not one single person in the room had actually paid for any of their apps. So again, in the games industry, people will download, but will they pay for it? So again, how are you going to generate revenue from your product? And there are new revenue streams coming on stream all the time. So again, what will your revenue stream be? So again, there's 9 elements, and I say for most businesses, you can probably target 4 or 5 as being key. But I would say certainly the ones that I would focus on: value proposition, key activities in your environment, key resources as well, and possibly key partners. And ultimately, cost structure, because there's no point in being in business if you don't generate positive cash flow. A business that does not generate positive cash flow is not sustainable. The boring stuff now. Just go back. I know Dougie's going to talk very briefly about this as well, but formats. You've got different formats you can set up a business: sole trader partnership, limited liability partnership. The norm, I would say, is probably limited companies, because it gives you limited liability status. particularly in the games industry, if you're going to be claiming game sector tax relief, you're only eligible for game sector tax relief if you're a limited company. So most games companies are actually driven down the limited liability status. Tax, again, Dougie will talk about the tax companies will have to sort of look at, whether it be tax on profits or game sector tax relief or the impact of national insurance, PAYE, if you're employing staff, national insurance. Employing people, again, I know that Dougie's going to touch on this as well, but you think employing people is simple, and yes, it can be, but there's a whole list of things that you need to take into account. How do you deal with student loans? What is statutory sick pay? What is statutory maternity pay? What is auto-enrolment? You guys are good at what you do, and that's developing game. But if you're employing people, these are things that you actually don't have to worry about, but you have to take care of in some way, shape or form. National minimum wage. The last one, EU working time regulation, well, that may be with us for a couple of years, but what will happen after Brexit, goodness only knows. It will probably be replaced by something else, in fairness, but you need to keep up to date with employment regulations. And so Dougie will talk about that slightly further. Again, the boring stuff, records and accounts, you need to do it. You need to keep a record of your transactions, because if you're operating a business, whether it be a sole trader or a limited company, there's a requirement to produce annual accounts. You will have to submit returns to the Customs and Excise for VAT on a monthly or quarterly basis. So somebody within the organisation has to stand up and take ownership of this, because it will not deal with it itself. And that's probably where you need a bit of professional guidance. And it's probably critical, because in terms of records and accounts, the most critical thing is cash. You need to monitor your cash flow position, so you know exactly where you are, and so you can know you can actually afford to do things, or more likely you can't afford to do things, which is a position you don't really want to be in. So there are lots of things there. I did say at the outset, I'm not trying to be overly negative. I just want you guys to realise that it's more to running a business than just making games. And finally, it's just really a sort of catch-up. Let's not forget, if you're running a business, you will have to deal with lawyers, you'll have to deal with insurances. It could just be basic insurance. I know we've got an insurance broker in the room tonight, so that specialises in sort of insurances for computer games companies, so it's well worthwhile speaking to him. You'll need to open bank accounts, you'll have to deal with bank managers. You will not necessarily get, and I know there's a few banks represented tonight, but funding for games companies from banks is traditionally very difficult. Once you're established, possibly there's scope, but for new startups it's very difficult to get borrowing facilities from banks. Laws and regulations, surveyors, if you're moving into premises, you'll have to deal with surveyors, enter into commercial leases, you'll need lawyers, and you'll need accountants, but we're the good guys. Honest. So again, I think that's probably it for me. What I would say, 3 books I would recommend: Business Model Generation, which takes you through the sort of business model canvas which I showed you. Start with the why. If you can't answer that question, why are you actually starting a business? And the Lean Startup, anybody familiar with the Lean Startup? Yeah, good. That is one book that I would thoroughly recommend for any business. Full of great case studies. It's particularly coming from a tech environment, and it's quite interesting because a lot of the case studies, they actually start with initial product, but then the final product that actually comes out of the company is nothing near the original product idea, but you need to know. It introduces the concept of the minimum viable product. Get it to market quickly, get it tested, get feedback from your customers, what they're looking for, pivot, change it, test it, pivot, change until you've got a final product. But again, it also talks about your burn rate of cash, so you need to know what your cash flow is to know how many pivots can you afford before you need to get it to market. So those 3 books I would thoroughly recommend. At this point, I pass you over to Dougie to talk you through a few slides on tax.
Thanks, Steve. So, I'm Doug Agnew, I'm a tax partner, and that usually kills conversations stone dead. As Steve says, I mean, it's perceived to be the boring stuff. It's perceived to be the evil that you need to kind of do and deal with. But as Steve says, I mean, if you don't do this the right way, your business won't last, or you won't get the tax reliefs, or you go to the bank and look for funding and the banks will not take you seriously. So, as I said, there's lots of things that you've got to get right, and you've got to consider quite early on. And 9 times out of 10, and in fact probably more than 9 times out of 10, the number of clients or potential contacts that pick you up, and they'll come to you when they've set up a structure, and quite often it's not the right structure. So at really early stage you should start to thinking, should you operate as a company? There's various benefits of operating as a company. There's a few hassles operating as a company. Simplistically, for the students that might not have had to think about this, I mean, a company is a wrapper, and in that wrapper is your business. So within that wrapper, you've got a layer of tax. So that's something that, again, people don't often think about. They'll just fly into a company and all of a sudden they've made some profits, and they'll say, right, well, you've got tax to pay within that wrapper. Whereas, as you see from the slides, sometimes it's better to be in that wrapper. Don't ask me why the revenue for my sins. I've been kind of fighting with the revenue for about 25 years, and they do things in different shapes, they do things in strange shapes, and sometimes there's no shape at all. But tax reliefs, R&D, video games tax relief, you don't get it if you're not a company. And we've had several times when new clients or people picked up the phone and said, I'm an LLP, and hard luck, that means you don't get your tax reliefs. And again, don't ask me why, because R&D and video games tax relief is all about job creation, and whether you're in a company or whether you're a sole trader or whether you're a partnership, you're employing people and generating income and profits, etc. But Steve referred to us as boring, but tax. No, it's so every time he calls a tax man boring, I just think about an accountant who used to count beans. But I mean, the tax man can get your money back. I mean, I love. It sounds a bit sad actually, but I love getting money out of the revenue, because the revenue don't tell you about reliefs. And R&D relief was brought in, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, and initially it was really hard to get, and it's now getting a bit easier. But because it was perceived to be quite hard to get, that's why Taiga and UK pushed for the video games tax credit and brought in a tax regime that is highly, it's all about definitions, whereas R&D, it's about what is R&D. And then the revenue threw about 30 pages of DTI guidelines and said, well, work out this R&D. Whereas video games tax credit, if you're the right shape company, if you incur the right costs, core expenditure, in the right place, generally speaking, you'll get it. And as I said, benefit of, doesn't list the benefit of video games tax relief, but basically R&D, you get an extra 130% tax relief, and then you can sell your losses for cash. Video games tax relief, you get an extra 80% deduction, and then you can sell your losses for cash. And seriously, the revenue write you a cheque. I mean, there's people in this room that have benefited from the tax credit. So, as I said, Steve mentioned that banks can have issues or maybe queries about funding games companies, because, as I said, quite often they're maybe not in the right shape, or they're not convinced about profitability, or they're not convinced what the next game's going to do. I mean, one game can kind of go exponential and one game could struggle. And so that tax relief's a good source of funding. Sometimes you need to be a company for various, I suppose, things like funding and banks, whatever, but oh, small player, fancy. So in the main, I would probably push you towards a company solely for the tax reliefs. But don't necessarily jump in here until it's right for you, because being a company, there's more costs. Being a sole trader, being a partnership, you're your own boss, you can do your tax return with minimal records. If you're a company, you've got to have a higher standard of records. So the cost for a company is a wee bit higher. But the sole trader, so as I said, just think seriously about the shape that you're in before you get into that shape. Because as I said, once you're in that shape, it, believe it or not, costs you to get out of that shape. So structure is really important. Think about the actual cost of the tax and plan it. Tax becomes due at a certain time, and when you become profitable, again, people kind of, when you think about this, they look at you strangely initially, but if you're paying tax, you're making profits. If you're paying VAT, you're making profits, and again, as I said, these are all things and taxes you've got to consider, because it's cash flow. VAT is a sales tax, so if you're selling more than you buy, you'll pay VAT. If conversely, and basically, if you hit a certain turnover threshold, you have to register, but you can register early. So if you incur lots of costs and maybe you're about to incur sales or generate sales, then you can claim the VAT back on those costs. So as I said, you only pay VAT if your sales exceed your costs. And if it's the other way around, you might register early to get the VAT back on those costs. And again, timing of tax. Company tax is due at a certain time, 9 months after a year in usually. VAT's usually due quarterly. But if you due VAT back, you can get it back monthly. So it's just kind of knowing what to do and when to do it. So if you're in a company, payroll's becoming quite complicated, and Steve had a few things on his list, but I can mention a few: auto enrolment, national minimum wage, you employ students. That's just three obvious ones that we'll all know and kind of be familiar with. But if you've got that shape and you've got a payroll being run, then it can be quite complicated. And particularly, I mean, auto enrolment is the government's kind way of pushing pension costs onto the public sector. So they have all these adverts about people, you've got to do this, you've got to do that. But what they don't tell you is business that's actually paying these costs, and the private sectors. And the reality is, hopefully I'm wrong, but in the future it could mean that businesses employ less people because they've only got enough cost and sort of money to go around. So as I said, it's accounts tax is perceived to be boring, but if you do it the right way, and if you do it with nice people like Steve and I, we'll make it nice and easy. I'll get as much tax back from you as the nasty revenue as I can. On the video games tax credit, I know well the guys at BFI, and that's your first step to getting your claim. You get your cultural test assessment done, then I go and fight with the revenue, and that's great fun because they annoy me immensely every now and again. And as I said, just think about and plan your costs, because if they hit at the wrong time, then your bank manager might not like you, or you might not have the money to pay your taxes. So just simple things like remember that tax bill's coming, and don't spend it in your next game. Or if you've incurred development costs, know that potential tax claim could come in. But the quicker you do your set of accounts, the quicker then I can go to the revenue and get the cash back. So again, and Steve and I work with lots of early stage and early startup games companies, and we do genuinely want to help businesses and help the companies get the reliefs that they're due, and we do actually, we'll give an element of free meetings, we'll give an element of free payroll costs we'll help businesses kind of find their feet. We'll give a reasonable amount of structural advice as well, because we want businesses to be in the right shape, so that when they get to each hurdle, then that will be hopefully with our help, and as I said, they'll be in the right place based on what they're actually trying to achieve. And as I said, one of the prime candidates or prime benefits of having your business financials, your tax, etc. in good shape is that you can go to serious people and looking for funding. And if you've got that all in the right shape, then people like my colleague Alistair will be able to help you and be able to put you in front of credible people. As I said, we're here to help, and my colleague will speak to you about funding.
Hi, how are you doing? My name's Alistair McNaughton. I work in corporate finance here at Henderson Loggie, and you've met the accountants, you've met the tax guys. Corporate finance, we're here to give you the money. When your slide's quite small, but when you're starting up, cheers. It's unfortunately titled Bootstrapping and Sweat Equity. You're better to start close to home. These terms basically mean that you're working, putting in the hours, doing stuff for yourself, not incurring much in the way of cash costs, but you're adding value to your business all the time. Sooner or later, though, you're going to need to make some cash sort of type payments. So the first step there would be to have a look at your own personal finances. Is there any way that you can fund these costs? You might want to look to asking friends and family for a loan, or possibly to invest in your business. These are all really good ways of keeping the costs for financing low. Quite often you can keep the admin low as well, but you need to be careful of your own personal debt situation, and you don't want to put too much stress on personal relationships. The next thing on the list, government support. There's actually a fair bit of support from the government for startup gaming companies. There's the UK Games Fund. They have a prototype fund which, if you meet criteria covering, and bear with me, innovation, route to market, commercial viability, development capability, scalability and capacity, you could find yourself eligible for grants of either £25,000 or £50,000. There's the Skills Investment Fund. The government have committed to investing £32 million over 2 years, which will be matched by industry investments for funding grants for employers to address skills gaps and shortages. These come about through funded training. They'll offer 50% towards the cost of putting employees through pre-approved short courses, and they offer a trainee finder, which gives you access to new talent and funding to put trainees in place at more affordable prices. There's the Scottish Enterprise. They offer support towards professional costs to assist with getting your company investor ready. They'll offer 30% of costs of up to £10,000 for things like business diagnostics, feasibility studies, business plans, non-executive costs, deal structuring and legal and patent costs. There's R&D and tax credits that Dougie touched on earlier. And there's other grants out there as well. Regional selective assistance, R&D grants, Smart Awards and Scottish seed funding, to name but a few. So yeah, they're throwing money at you. If your business becomes a bit more developed, you might be going up onto the early stage, you might want to look at a business angel. Scotland has a very active business angel market. These are individuals who are self-certified as high net worth or sophisticated investors, and they'll usually invest individually or as part of a syndicate such as the Discovery Investment Fund, Highland Equity Fund, Archangels or Power Equity. The business angels are interested in tax breaks that they'll get from investment, such as SEIS and EIS. That's the Enterprise Investment Scheme and the Seed Enterprise Investment Scheme, and most games developers should be eligible to offer these to their investors. The business angels will generally invest between sort of £10,000 and £500,000, and they'll be interested in investment if you can offer them an innovative concept, a strong management team, enabling our platform technology, and there's a market demand for your product. They'll generally be interested in an exit opportunity. That's one of the reasons they're in there, but the relationship with you personally will be very important to them. You might want to consider a trade partner, which Steve briefly touched on earlier. These are games publishers, advertisers, or marketing companies who will pay you in return for development contracts and ownership rights. I think Steve mentioned Playstack is a company headed up by ex-EA executive Harvey Elliott, and he was quoted in the press recently as saying, "You create the game, we'll handle the funding." Sounds straightforward enough. And then there's crowdfunding. This is the new kid on the block. The first project is thought to be the rock band Marillion, who raised $60,000 back in '97 to fund a tour. The first £1 million project was completed in 2012, and now there's more than 500 platforms online, including Kickstarter, 8-bit funding, and Look at My Game. And then last on my list is project finance. These are project-specific debt and equity finance solutions, and they're they usually involve a special purpose vehicle being set up, and they're aimed at smaller SEIS and EIS investments. And the companies out there that would do that would be www.standfastinteractive.com and www.tesseractfund.com, among others. Hope that's given you a quick flavour of funding that's out there, and I'll hand you back to Steve.
Okay. Thanks, Alistair. I think just before I invite we have a panel session, so just before I invite the four panellists up, just touching on what Alistair said there, the other form of funding that's probably worthy of mention is if you're using the development engine provided by Epic. Epic have got a $5 million fund, I think, to give grants to development companies that are actually using their sort of development platform. So again, something worthy of considering if you're using Epic products or the Unreal Engines or the various products. The other thing I probably should say, again, it links with what Dougie said, format of the business. And I've seen this so many times. Companies spin out of university, so your project, Dare to Be Digital team, 4 or 5 people, let's set up a company. It just seems a natural thing to do. I'm not saying it's the wrong thing to do, far from it. What I would say is, if you're doing that, think further down the line, because I have had a few examples of this. It's not a question of people falling out with one another, far from it. Just things change, people's circumstances change, because you tend to find very early years, we'll maybe hear this from the panellists, times are hard. And part of me thinks, students coming straight out of university, they know nothing about business. Why are they going into business? Get some business experience. But then the other part of me thinks, well, maybe that's the best time to go into business because they're actually used to living off pot noodles. But circumstances do change. People get married, they have family, they've got mortgages. They don't want to actually just wing it from month to month. They actually need the stability of a salary. And it's easy to, well, I'm not saying it's easy, but there are games companies, certainly in Dundee, across Scotland, your Outplays, your Tags, they're advertising. So it's the easy option is go and get a job, get a good salary. It's money in the bank every single month, as opposed to running your own business. It's a question of, can we actually afford to take anything this month? So the other point, final point I'm going to make is, if you're actually going to start a company, 4 guys will start a company, call it whatever, set up, go into a company's house, cost you £15 to set up a company, 25 shares each, end of story, we've got a company, we're good to go. I would say is have a shareholders agreement as well. It could be informal amongst yourselves, because what happens when the first one actually decides, well, I want to go away and do my own thing, okay, leave. But that individual still has 25% of your business. And if that business takes off in 3 years' time, and that individual still sticks with 25%, he owns that whether you like it or not. So have some form of shareholders agreement amongst yourselves that actually tries to deal with these what-if situations. So again, you might need to involve lawyers, but it's probably money well spent. So at that point, that's final word from me. Can I invite the panellists to come down?